Thanks for joining us with another Insurance Leadership Podcast episode. We are coming to you here from Tampa, Florida at the ICMG Conference. I have Terry Ward here. He's the Senior VP of Sales for United Vision Plan, and they do digital benefits. So, when I'm talking about face-to-face, we're talking about what to do not face-to-face, right?
Exactly. That's where it's going.
That's absolutely. So a little bit about Terry. We've worked with Terry and his team for quite some time at UVP. Terry's an avid Georgia fan. We were just chatting a little bit about kind of the face of college football and what's changing there. I know that gets Terry a little bit excited, but I tell you what, Terry, let's start with just tell us a little bit about you. Share a little bit about your journey in the insurance industry and what kind of led you to your current role at UVP.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks. And thanks for inviting me, first of all, for being here. I actually grew up in South Florida, grew up in Key West, but my family is longtime UGA guys. So when I graduated, went to UGA. Spent some time after I graduated doing a few things, but relatively early went to work in Atlanta for an optometrist that ultimately played a founding role in the company that would become Spectera Vision, and I worked there. And then in 2001, Spectera was bought by United Healthcare. So Spectera then in essence became the vision tool or the vision benefit network for United Healthcare Vision. And I spent a number of years there as well, all in sales, some in operational responsibility, but left United Healthcare Vision in 2008 and found myself at Versant, then known as Davis Vision, now known as Versant. Was with Davis Vision for a number of years, led their sales team, sales organizations, and then subsequently found my way to UVP, and I've been here since 2017.
You've been in the industry for 40 years.
Yeah.
40 plus maybe, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Right at 40.
Okay,
right at 40.
Right at 40. But I know you've seen obviously a lot of changes.
But I started when I was 5 years old.
There you go. That's 45. Right. 5 years old. So I know you've seen a lot of changes, and I know what you're doing at UVP right now. I don't think people are even thinking about this, 10 years ago,
sure.
Right? So tell me what you've seen as some of the most significant shifts in the industry and how benefits are being delivered and how employers are getting these solutions.
I think that, let's say 40 years ago, a lot of the Vision Network benefits were more distinct. Somebody like VSP was at that time private practice providers only. IMED hasn't even formed yet. LensCrafters was just launched, and their managed vision care plan was starting to develop. So Versant or Davis Vision back then was in the Northeast and did a lot of labor markets. My point is that they had a certain brand awareness out there when they were going into the market. I think that one of the changes that we've seen is that these vision care companies now look a lot like each other. So IMED owns, obviously, or is owned by a company that also owns retailers, LensCrafters and Pearl, JCPenney, it's Target Optical. And now VSP, not only do they have retailers on their network, they own their own retail, just like IMED does. So they own VisionWorks, and I think they just bought Vision Express, or iMart Express. So the companies are starting to come together, right? And they look a lot like one another in that sense. And I think that UVP, United Vision Plan, is different. And one of the reasons for this difference, this distinction, is the other movement in the industry that I think you've seen is a lot of interest in pursuing your vision benefits online. And I think that we've seen an increasing amount of eyewear in the United States being purchased online, whether you're a consumer with no benefits or whether you're a benefit member, increasingly starting to get their eyewear online. And we think that right now it's about 25% of the market for the total U.S. spend. If you put in both, sunglasses, prescription eyewear, contact lenses, you're getting into some pretty high numbers.
What do you think's pushing that forward?
And I think that I think that vision care in particular, more so than medical or dental, is a consumer-oriented product for sure, because you're in there. There's a fashion sense to it, right? You go to the doctor and you're and getting a treatment for a medical issue. It's not there's not a fashion sense to that. But if you're getting a vision benefit, there's a fashion sense to it. It's a fun aspect to it. People want to use their vision benefits, and so I think that it lends itself to other consumer goods that have been increasingly purchased online and digitally. And so eyewear benefits actually fits very well into that dynamic.
Do you think your consumers are less driven towards brand loyalty now? I mean, as far as like the carriers themselves, so like you said, everyone's kind of coming together. I think there's probably some names out there that people don't even know yet, that when you started, there was probably a handful and everyone knew who they were, right?
Right.
So is brand less important now and delivery maybe more important?
I do think that we've started to see that, because I think that because of in part, one of the things that digital access promotes is transparency, right? And so people come to the site, they can see exactly what they're spending, exactly what they're responsible for. If they don't like the number that they're starting to see, they can change their order on the fly. There's more control through the whole ordering process, I think. And so I think that in part that members and consumers are more open then to selecting a path that's right for them, not necessarily just a name.
So Terry, I think my background's in technology, so obviously I hold digital benefits kind of a little bit close to my heart. I'm interested in it, and I think it's a game changer. But I also know that there's been a lot of hesitation of adoption of some of these things, and what we found at Morgan White Group was COVID kind of pushed forward a lot of the digital delivery of all things insurance, just because, I mean, for starters, you couldn't leave your house, you couldn't go to a doctor, you couldn't go to a dentist, but then I think that was kind of helped get people over the hump.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm curious what you see in challenges today with getting companies and employees to kind of embrace how you guys are delivering these benefits. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but
right. I think that you're right. You're absolutely right that the COVID virus and then the subsequent lockdown was a incentive for many people to start thinking about their care and their benefits in a different way, in a different manner. And certainly vision care was part of that change and that shift. And we definitely saw a growth in the willingness to use an online solution. And I think that's going to that's continued. So that definitely gave a role to raise its awareness somewhat. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's probably, and is continuing, and it's building upon itself. So once they have that positive experience, once they opened up themselves to that new non-traditional way of seeking care, I think they like it. Yeah. I think they find that it's easier, it's more convenient, there's more variation, more variety. So I think people like it.
So the ice is broken now. So we don't need to go through another COVID, I don't think.
Please, not that again.
All right, Terry. So, this is the Insurance Leadership Podcast, and you've been a leader in this industry for quite some time. So I want to ask you a little bit about some of the leadership challenges or methods you've put into place. One of them being, we know the shift to digital benefits requires adaptation. Sure. And I assume you've probably hired people at UVP that have come from all different backgrounds. And if they've come from an insurance background, digital benefits could really be pretty new to them as well. Yep. So I guess I'm curious, as a leader, how do you encourage your team and the partners that you work with to kind of embrace the change and the innovation that you guys have out there?
Certainly we do. And I have people from the health background, people from vision background. We have others in our organization that have no benefit background at all. But there are a couple of ways that we promote awareness, if you will, of the product. And that is, one, we certainly do a lot of demonstrations of the website, how it works, how effective it is. And so that's something that helps, educate our partners. I think another way that a tool that we like to use is simply allow the partner or the employee, as we are bringing them on, to go through and use our product themselves, right? And so they go online, they come to the site, they're able to select from thousands of frames. But going through the process, seeing how easy it is, how intuitive it works, how intuitively it works, that is probably the best training for our employees for sure, and also our partners. The other thing I'll say for the employees certainly too is that when we are speaking with relationships out there, we're constantly asking, encouraging to ask, even though they may not be working for an employee benefit vision side, they may be working with some other type of benefit that is delivered on a digital basis. So a lot of mental health and wellness type products out there. We are constantly talking to those organizations. We see a lot of them out there, some of them very, very good. Teledentistry is something that's out there more frequently now. We encourage our employees and our partners to talk to those companies as well to learn what they can from what those companies and those organizations are seeing.
I came across the other day a tele-veterinarian. And my joke was kind of, how do we get Fido to answer the questions of this vet on there? But apparently,
sit still for the Zoom. Yeah, how does that happen?
There's something there, and I think people are really trying to go out there and use technology to solve all these issues in the insurance world. So we'll see what comes of televets. But
right, it wasn't too long ago that veterinarian health insurance, pet insurance came into play.
That's right.
And now they're going to do it virtually. I think that's a positive.
Yeah, bark twice if your leg hurts, right?
Exactly.
So I know you talked about your partners and your internal team, but now, so obviously you work with a lot of brokers as well. Are brokers more challenging to get them to kind of grasp and adapt when they may be used to selling traditional vision plans or things that are not digital like this? Is there a hesitation? Are they scared to adopt the technology?
I think that if they've worked with vision care in general for some time, and they've had a positive experience with a more traditional carrier, sometimes it takes a little more effort to make sure they understand and are aware of the differences between ourselves and the more traditional carriers, network-based, brick-and-mortar-based network carriers in the market. But again, I think one of the effective ways that we deal with that is simply to make sure that they can come to our site, use it, experience it, see the variety that's available out there, make their selections, and then actually get the glasses delivered to them so that they can judge, all right, how does this work? How long does it take for me to get my glasses? What do they look like? How are they presented when I receive them? All of those things are key components to the member experience, and that's certainly something we use with brokers. And I think that it's an effective way.
I want to pivot again a little bit back to our leadership angle here.
Okay.
So Terry, I know you have decades of experience. So obviously, you've seen quite a bit in your time. What do you think is the biggest challenge that this industry faces today, and what do you think as a leader you can do to kind of drive either meaningful change or reaction to those challenges that you see out there? I know that might be a tough one.
Well, I will say this. I think that, vision care has all benefits. So vision care benefits have always done a great job of offering a solution as opposed to someone being a consumer and going and pursuing getting a pair of glasses with no benefits at all. So if you go into a store or a location, you get glasses, your out-of-pocket expense is going to be X. If you do it with your traditional network carriers, it's going to be less than that. There will be a positive, even when you account for the premiums it costs to participate. You still come out, I believe, much further ahead if you have a vision benefit. However, I think that one of the things in general that the benefit has struggled with is a little bit of the out-of-pocket cost. All right, so I know how much I cost to participate in the plan, but how much do I actually pay when I select my glasses? And I think that our industry has struggled with this. Sometimes those prices can be very, very high. And I think that the solution to it is this digital platform. And I think that that's something that, and the reason is it offers the transparency, so it gives the control back to the member. They can control that out-of-pocket experience. And I think that's the key component to our industry. And the traditional carriers have online ways of pursuing eyewear, prescription eyewear as well, benefits. I think ours is better, but I do think as a whole, the industry is doing a good job of that, and that helps create more transparency, which lowers the out-of-pocket cost at the time of service, and I think that's good for everyone.
Well, Terry, we appreciate you joining us on the podcast. That was great. Thank you.
I thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we thank everyone for joining us as well. Everyone have a great one.